The first of two races this weekend in the GT4 Central European Cup, live from the Nurburgring as part of the ADAC Truck Grand Prix. It's an eclectic mix because you've got, as you can see on the track, representation from the European Truck Racing Championship. The pace truck is there, and then behind it, supercars to make your mouth water, because we've got these GT4 cars here this weekend. Go back 2 years, the Blancpain Sprint Series was part of this event, but GT4 cars perhaps a little bit more affordable for the man in the street, perhaps fulfill the void left by the Blancpain Championship for this weekend. And it's a fascinating entry. It's not vast, but what we do have promises to make for two very competitive races indeed. We had qualifying this morning, standalone sessions, so in a modern fashion, it is the driver that set the time who starts this race, and that means that the Colombian driver Oscar Tunjo is on pole position in the Audi R8 LMS GT4. Phoenix Racing, based just over the road here, has brought two cars. One is on pole, the other lining up fourth on the grid. And it's going to be Oscar Tunjo who starts. Ignore the driver's name there, because that's the driver that will be in the second race start. So it's Oscar Tunjo that starts number 3 from Mad Sillyhog alongside. Then Ilmari Corpivara starts from 3rd, and Jean-Louis Jasper 4th. Then you've got Lennart Marianec 5th on the grid, ahead of Rob Seves. Ivan Vlachkov goes solo, so he's good. He'll start from 7th, ahead of Giuseppe Fascicolo. Then it is the soloist, for the purposes of number 7, Maciej Marcinkiewicz, because his co-driver, Lukasz Krajski, is rather unwell. And then to round out the top 10 on the grid is the pseudonymed Freddie Fast. David Addison and Martin Houston trackside for what Martin promises to be a fascinating hour of racing.
Yep, should be. It's hot, the track's hot, the cars are hot. And we seem to have some issue with the driver names. Hopefully that will get corrected. And we can see the KTM crossbow in its pink and blue colours with its hood up. Keep the occupants cool while we wait for the start of the race,
which will be an hour long. There's the mandatory pit window, which will come between 25 and 35 minutes, and it's 100 seconds, the pit stop line to line. So the grid is formed, everybody good to go. And it will be, of course, a rolling start. I suspect that the pace truck is there purely for show, but we'll see whether it's going to be a pace car or a pace truck that leads them around. Oscar Tunjo then is the man on pole position. He came out of karting, his being the green and white Audi, and from karts into Formula BMW, he was the runner-up to Richard Bradley in the Pacific Championship back in 2010. Then he was into Formula Renault, both the Euro Cup and the Alps and the NEC Championships, then Formula Renault 3.5 before going into GP3, and last season dabbling in GT racing really for the first time in the ADAC GT Masters. And Oscar Tunjo will be a man to watch for sure in the opening stint, because really he's going to try and build up as big a gap as he can over Gosaya Radest. And so as the grid is now starting to be cleared, the grid walk is completed. Again, the Nürburgring, like many circuits, has a different start line to the finish line. So the timing line, the finish line is up at the top end as you come out of the Jaguar curve. The start line further down the pit straight, and the VIP grid walk now completed. Everybody making their way off the circuit towards the pit lane once again. Mad Sillyhag is the man that lines up second on the grid, taking the seat of Patrick Niederhauser. He's another ex-karter, and Mad Sillyhag has raced both in the rather quirkily named Formula Basic, the entry-level single-seater category in Austria, as well as in GT4s and KTMs, but this year also for Hans Reiter's team with the rather venerable now Lamborghini Gallardo in the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup. So Mad Sillyhag will start in a car that's had one win this year, and Marilyn Niederhauser shared with Patrick, her unrelated partner, and Mad Sillyhag drafted into the car for this weekend. On the second row of the grid is another of the KTMs, the orange and white and black car, with Ilmari Corpivara at the wheel of it, graduating from one make saloon car racing. He was quick in the Clio Cup into GT4 racing this year. And then on the outside of that row, you've got number 4, which is going to be in its almost martini colours, started by Jean-Louis Jasper. This is another of the Phoenix brace of Audis. Jean-Louis Jasper will give way to Helmut Rödig, who is not as quick. So Jasper's opening stint is going to be crucial here, I think, to see whether he can build up as big a gap as possible for Rödig for the second half of the race, or the second stint, really, because I would imagine they're going to get the full 34 minutes and 59 seconds out of Jasper before they put Rödig in for the shorter stint at the end.
Yeah, I would think so. And the pace car sets off.
So everybody ready for an hour of action. Huge crowds as ever for this ADAC Truck Grand Prix, and the inclusion in recent years of car racing, something a little bit different. Last year it was the Spezial Tourenwagen Trophy that raced here. The year before that we had the two GT3 races from the, as it then was called, Blancpain Sprint Series. Just going back to the grid, sixth on the grid, number 43, Rob Sebers, GT4 regular. Now with the Allied Racing Porsche switching away from BMWs into Porsches for GT4 racing for this season. But the Dutchman very, very experienced, pretty successful as well. Then you've got number 11, which is this 6.2-litre Sin of Ivan Vlachkov, who raced the car last year, having moved out of karting. And then eighth on the grid is 77 Giuseppe Fascicolo, who came from the Ferrari Challenge into GT4 via the Maserati Trofeo. And of course, he's behind the wheel of one of the two Maseratis that we have on the grid for this race. Next up, number 7, is Maciej Marcinkiewicz, a former Formula 3 racer. He's raced on and off in the FIA GT Championship for a number of seasons in the Volkswagen Cup in Poland, but he's likely to be doing this on his own because, as I said earlier on, Lukasz Kreszki was rather unwell this morning, so therefore both qualifying sessions done by Marcinkiewicz, and he may well, the information we have for the moment is that he will do both races solo as well. The pseudonymed Freddie Fast is next on the grid with the Mercedes ahead of the father and son, and it's son to start, Maserati of Antoni Kodzin. Father Piotr will take over, and then alongside him is 41 Freddie Kramer, quite a long way back on the grid here, the former rally competitor and single-seater racer, but for a driver that's got lots of GT experience, whether it's been in multi-brand or one-mate championships, he's a long way back on the grid. Freddie Kramer in the number 41 Porsche. And then to complete the grid, number 20, Franjo Kovac, at 63 years of age. He's been a regular in the Nurburgring 24 Hours, in the Mini Challenge, in the 24-hour series, in Pro Car, in the DTC, and now turning his attention to this Central European Cup that's already had 2 races at Most. It's had 2 at the Red Bull Ring, and we've had a different winner each time out, Hamza Ovega, who is absent this weekend. He was the winner of the first one at Most, and the Niederhausers, Marilyn and the absent Patrick, won the second race there. Then at the Red Bull Ring, it was the turn of the Maserati of Romy Dall'Antonia and Giuseppe Fascicolo to come out on top. And then last time out, Jan Kasperlik, who's another driver missing from this weekend's entry, and Rob Sebers, they were the victors on Austrian soil. So we turn our attention then to this first race of the weekend. And everybody lined up ready for the start of this 60-minute race. Rolling start from behind the pace truck, intriguingly, yeah. Which I think is something new for the GT4
yeah.
Central European Cup.
Yeah, have their windscreens covered in diesel.
As a thought. In this environmentally friendly age, you have your rather expensive Audi being led around by a truck, just like on the motorway. So the pace truck is there, and when the indication is given, we've had the 3-minute board. At 1 minute, the engines will fire up. The last of the engineers will leave the grid, and then we will be in business. But it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top in this race. Right, 1 minute board is now displayed, and we will be good to go racing very shortly indeed. My scream salesman's doing a roaring trade.
Yeah. Well, it gets hot in that M Tribune with the sun shining.
It's pretty hot inside the car, so sympathise with the poor driver that has to do the first stint, because they have to be strapped in long in advance, drive it to the grid, sit on the grid for ages, get hotter and hotter and hotter.
Yeah. Well, at least the crossbows can open up their roof.
That's true.
Let some of the heat out. Some of the fans all sitting there eating their ice creams with their umbrellas up, protect them from sunburn.
So the pace truck
Moves
away, slightly lollopy, but up through the gears it goes. And it's quite an art to hustle that round because, of course, in normal trim you are leading the field of race trucks, all eager to get going. But Frank Feldhahn, who is the driver, the permanent driver of the pace truck, does it with aplomb, and I can vouch for that. I sat next to him at Most on a parade lap last year, and he doesn't have to tackle it at speed, bearing in mind that's a road-going truck, and he's got race trucks behind him. But now, if you can see that low in the mirror, he will find this swarming pack of GT4 cars ready to go, including the Porsche Caymans that you've got, one at the front, one at the back. But is it going to be an Audi win here, or is it going to be Mads Siljehaug and Marilyn Niederhauser to come through in the KTM? We'll find out very shortly when we go racing. So, Martin, talk us around the circuit. This is the Mercedes Arena.
Okay, we're going through the Mercedes Arena, coming through to the curve and then the Yokohama S's, and that will take us round to the hairpin, which is part of the short circuit. It's an off-camber bank, so it's a difficult corner at speed, and that then brings you round to the Ravenel curve, and then followed by the Bilstein curve. They're all warming their tyres up. The tarmac is going to be hot. I would say it's probably in the high 40s, so that'll have an effect on tyre life. But they do sound glorious. Then they go through the Bilstein curve to the Advenbogen, which will take them down to the Vidal chicane.
And these cars use the softer version of it, the motorcycle version, the historic car, GT car version, rather than the Formula One hard braking, tighter left-right that you will see from the trucks if you stay with us on the live stream. We'll have this one race and then a break, and then a busy afternoon of the second European and Mittelrhein Cup races, and more of the go and stop competition as well. So the pace truck now up towards the chicane, everybody getting themselves in the 2x2 formation. The board is there from the marshal just to remind them that is how the race director requires them. Everybody takes heed and will be shortly ready for business. So the one to watch off the line undoubtedly is going to be Oscar Tunjo to see what sort of gap he can build up. But Jean-Louis Jasper was taking the battle to him in qualifying this morning. At the back of the field is Franjo Kovac and Mads Siljehaug then in the pink and purple KTM. Marilyn Niederhauser's car good to go. It's going to be fascinating to see whether he can outdrag the Audi on the run down towards turn one. They will come then now up through the Jaguar curve then, ready to go racing. 60 minutes of action set to get underway. It's not a set number of laps. The flag goes out the first time the leader crosses the line once the hour is up. And we are about to get racing underway as they come out of the Jaguar curve, and Jean-Louis Jasper out of his marks there onto the inside line. It's 4 wide across the line. A good start is made by the KTM from the second row of the grid there in the hands of Corpivara, but it's a rather untidy start, I think, that the race director may want to look at that as they dive down towards turn one for the first time. Corpivara dives right round the outside. He's going to leave his braking desperately late. Too deep into the corner he goes. He scrabbles out the other side behind the Audi then now, and it means that it is Oscar Tunjo that leads the way. Corpivara goes second, third is Jasper, down to fourth is Mads Siljehaug. But whether people might get penalised for that start, we'll wait and see, because in certain GT categories, if you move either side of your grid markers, you do get penalised. Jasper getting up the inside there of Siljehaug, can't find a way past him, so it is Tunjo that leads for the first time down to the hairpin.
And he's regaining ground from that controversial start, so he's up back behind the Audi as they come into the S's. And here we come through the Advenbogen, coming up to the Vendel chicane.
Jasper having a look for third place against Corpivara, who's fallen back into that third position then now. So as they come up towards the chicane for the first time, third, fourth and fifth as one, and Corpivara having lost ground at the first corner, now having to go defensive because he's got them all stacked up behind him as they come down towards the Jaguar curve. This is the line for third. The two race leaders getting away up front then, and the two nose to tail then are up front Oscar Tunjo, who breaks the beam ahead of Mad Sillyhound. It's Audi versus KTM, one rather more mainstream GT car than the other. In third place there is Corpivara, fourth is Jasper, fifth over the line it is the Porsche of Rob Severs, who goes to the inside line. He in turn is coming under attack from the Marionette KTM. Deep into turn one again goes Corpivara. He just hasn't got his braking right for that corner yet, and it's costing him dear, isn't it?
Yep, it's costing him dear. The pack is catching him up. Rob Severs is coming on his tail, making an approach behind the number 4 Audi.
So Severs in the Porsche comes up to have a go at Jasper in the sort of Martini liveried Audi, who goes defensive on the inside line. Severs has a look, can't do it. And in turn, he's trying to fend off Lennart Marionette behind in the KTM as they come out of the hairpin. The two leaders getting away. The gap at the end of lap one was 0.3 of a second between them. Corpivara going defensive, and he's doing a good job for the moment, keeping everybody in the line. He's getting longer, all stacked up behind him.
And the two leaders are pulling well away. Marionette seems to be holding the pack up. He's just not getting his braking and his line correct.
Yeah, Corpivara in the white KTM hanging on to that third place. Marionette at the back of the queue there in sixth. As up the inside goes Rob Severs into the chicane to try to get fourth place. He brakes as late as he dares, but he didn't have quite the speed to stay alongside the Audi. So it means that Jean-Louis Jasper then comes out of the corner ahead as they work now up towards the Jaguar curve through this long right onto the pit straight they come, and because Jasper was having to defend, so it means that this time Corpivara has just extended the margin ever so slightly, but the two race leaders are almost together again because Sillyhag is getting back onto the tail of Tunjo. The gap between them is 1/10 of a second as they go into turn one. Now the leading Maserati booming into the equation. That's Giuseppe Fascicolo there, getting himself onto the tail of Marionette down towards turn one. Jasper goes a little bit deep into the corner, but there are almost two races going on now, one for the race lead and the rest for third.
Yeah. It's a very convoluted pack there. It's very concentrated. And there's the Sim at the back there. Not really got the pace today.
So there are the two race leaders down towards the hairpin, nose to tail. And Mad Sillyhag then getting himself onto the back of Oscar Tunjo. The two of them absolutely together. The KTM seems to be getting a little bit quicker as the laps tick down. In third place there is Ilmari Corpivara, the former Clio Cup racer, still going defensive, keeping Jean-Louis Jasper at bay. Behind him there you've got Rob Severs, behind Severs is Marionette, behind him is Fascicolo, and now it's game on for the race leaders. Up the curve goes Tunjo, having a look to the inside line, but to no avail yet is Sillyhag. Got the two cars looking very evenly matched indeed here. They're both running in the Pro-Am category. There's Pro-Am and there's Am, and as they come up towards the chicane once more, what is it, a length? 2 lengths between the pair now, if that. Sillyhag looking for a way through on the inside, thinks about it, the car quivers under braking, stays right onto the tail of the Audi. Now, is this his chance to have a go coming past the pits into turn one?
I think the extra Audi grunt's paying off here, and the extra streamlining.
Third place, side by side. Jean-Louis Jasper on the outside line goes through, takes the place away, diving into turn one. But Corpivara fights back on the inside. He's going to go deep into the corner. You could see it coming. For the third lap in a row, Ilmari Corpivara nearly has to pay to get back into the circuit. So why did he go? And it means now that finally Jean-Louis Jasper is ahead of him, and he's got Rob Severs tucked up behind him in the Porsche. And look, the Audi, having been able to get through, is already away and gone.
Pulling away, yeah. He's getting that corner wrong every time, isn't he?
He is, and it's costing him dear because now, of course, having led on the first lap, he's down to fourth position. That's Lennart Marionette having a look on the inside to try and get past Rob Severs, but to no avail. Up the curb goes the white KTM of Corpivara, who's dropping back now into the clutches of Severs. Then you've got Marionette, so the Porsche fending him off for the moment. Here's the race lead battle. Mad Sillyhag looking as though were he to get past, he might be quicker, might be able to pull away. They come out of the Advanbogen up towards the chicane, but he drops away a little bit. Through the corners he's good, but he hasn't quite got the speed in a straight line. Flick through the chicane, use all your bravery, use all the curb as well there.
You can see the KTM's just that little bit more nimble.
Jasper third, getting away. Corpivara fourth, Sievers fifth, Marionette sixth. A little bit wider goes Oscar Tunjo then as the former Mercedes racer from the STT, the Special Tourenwagen Trophy, comes over the timing line. The gap is now 0.283 of a second, and there Sillyhout does the best lap of the race. Wow. But again, he loses out by the end of the pit straight. The gap just stretches. So the leader, Tunjo, doing a good job. There is Jasper in third. Corpivara is fourth. Fifth is Sievers. Sixth is Marionette. And then the best of the Maseratis comes next of Fasicolo. The Sin is about to try to gain a place as well because Vlachkov has gone up the inside, and there he is through in the background, just getting himself up one further place at the expense of Freddie Fast. Here are the leaders in replay. 0.283 of a second when they came across the line, but now the one to watch is in third place, Jean-Louis Jasper, because having been released, he's just set the fastest lap of the race.
Yep. So he was definitely being held up there. And there's the Sievers being challenged by the number 22 car.
So Lennart Marionette at the wheel of the KTM, all over the back of the Cayman now. Behind them is Giuseppe Fasicolo, look in the white and blue Maserati. Just the long drag up towards the chicane. Rob Sievers then, experienced GT4 racer, bounces over the curb. Careful not to leave the door open. Marionette is closing, and he has a look to the inside line. Not really capable of making a proper move there, but he's putting the pressure on Sievers, trying to unsettle him, trying to force a mistake out of him as they come through. This is for the lead, side by side, and again, look, the Audi has the advantage. But Sillyhout breaks later on the inside line. He's going to go through, but when he goes too deep into the corner, yes, he will. He runs out wide, and so that means that Mad Sillyhout now does come out on the right line, does get the race lead, and does go through. So Mad Sillyhout it is up front, and he's had to work very hard indeed for that. It's taken him 5 laps of effort. Mad Sillyhout, new race leader then, comes out of turn 4 ahead and tries to break away. The fascination next is going to be whether Tunjo can fight back, and then we're going to have this unofficial Coupe des Dames in the second stint, aren't we? Marilyn Niederhauser versus Gusaya Rodess, the two co-drivers of these two leading cars. So is Sillyhout going to pull away? And then behind them, what about Jean-Louis Jasper? Because last time he lapped quicker. He might be able to get up with the sister car of Tunjo before the very end of the race here, or before the end of the stint at least. Freddie Fast, you've got number 47, keeping Ivan Vlachkov at bay. And before you ask, yes, it is a pseudonym for Freddie Fast. He's 8th at the moment, Vlachkov is 9th, and then in 10th place currently is Maciej Marcinkiewicz. Just dropping away slightly as the leaders again come out of the chicane into the Jaguar curve. And here is 4th, 5th and 6th. Rob Sievers also losing touch now with Corpivara because he's trying to defend from Marionette. The KTM again has a look up the inside. Can he make it stick coming past the pits down towards turn 1? What do you think?
Well, don't think so. Doesn't seem to have the speed. He's tucking in behind Sievers, so maybe he's going to go for the inside line in the corner. Although Sievers is pulling away with the extra aerodynamics.
Out of turn 1, then they go. We've had the first 10 minutes elapse now as the clock ticks on down. And Sillyhout, having got himself into the lead, has done another best lap of the race, a 1:33.039 now. So Mad Sillyhout getting away. There is
just pulling away.
Elmar Corpivara running in 3rd place. Now, what about Corpivara's lap times? Because now that he's settled down and he's mastered the first corner, he's secure in 4th place, isn't he? Sievers so busy defending, can't really bring his lap times down. But the KTMs, all of them looking pretty racy now.
Yeah, all going well.
Rob Sievers, downhill he comes. Still chasing after Ilmari Corpivara. GT4 racing with the French Championship, with the European Championship, with this Central European Cup. And then there's going to be this World Final in Bahrain, first weekend of December, which is sure to attract a huge entry from all over. There's a GT4 class within the British GT Championship. There's GT4 racing in Blancpain, Asia. So there's an awful lot of these cars being raced around the globe. And Mad Sillyhout leads the way, but only just. The gap down ever so slightly to 7/10 of a second as they come through. The KTM leading the pack. Second is still Tunjo. And remember that this pit window between 25 and 35 minutes. So as the cars go now out of turn 1, there is number 3, which is Oscar Tunjo, still running in second spot.
Hanging on to the tails.
Bit of a slide, bit of a wobble, and that cost him a fraction of time. Tunjo looking a little bit untidy all of a sudden there through turns 2 into 3. Comes now up towards the hairpin, but the Audi is starting to lose touch a little bit. And so now you've also got the Jean-Louis Jasper Audi there in third place, trying to close the gap, but he wasn't quite as quick last time as the sister car.
Oh, sliding there.
Out of the Bilstein curve comes Jasper then. He might have to do this on the pit stops. He will share with Helmut Rödig, but remember, Rödig not as quick, so that car potentially to drop away. Now, what about Ilmar Korpivara and Benjamin Mazatis? Both are quick. Ilmari Korpivara at the wheel at the moment. Climbs the hill up towards the chicane. And now that he's settled down, the Finn getting into a rhythm, might just be able to stave off the attack of Rob Sievers behind, who is still very busy indeed, trying to fend off Lennart Marionetch in the KTM.
Yeah. So close.
Down to turn 1, Marionetch tries to go wide in and tight out, but everywhere he wants to be, the Porsche is in the way. Up front, Mads Siljehout getting away. He's done another fastest lap of the race now.
2 purple sectors.
Up the inside goes Marionetch, tries to find a way past Sievers, but to no gain there. This is for 5th and 6th, don't forget. And again, it's a KTM looking like it's being held up. The KTM's coming into their own as the stint wears on, but Rob Sievers has done a great job here of maintaining this 5th place. There in 7th is Giuseppe Fasicolo. 8th behind him is the Sin of Ivan Vlachkov, and then in 9th place behind it is Maciej Marcinkiewicz.
Well, now that the Sin's get in front of the Mercedes, maybe he'll put on some speed and gain some ground. Yeah,
possibly so. It's a good-looking car, the Sin. There it is, this 6.2-litre Bulgarian-built car. Rosen Dasakov, the man behind it, based in the UK, but Dasakov runs it under a Bulgarian flag. Up behind is the Maserati now of Marcinkiewicz, but there is Vlachkov pressing on. Sounds good as well as looking purposeful, that car. Climbs the chicane now. Now the race leader has gone by and the gap is up to 1.6 seconds now.
Wow.
Mads Siljehout getting on with the job, getting away. And we've had into the pit lane twice, in fact, now, Anthony Chodson. So the other Maserati, number 50, has got problems. Chodson down the pit lane, the former Lamborghini Super Trofeo racer with the drama. There's Freddie Fast's Lechner Racing Mercedes. Lechner on duty over the border at the Red Bull Ring for Porsche Super Cup this weekend, but this part of the customer programme. And Freddie Fast is the man behind the wheel as he comes now up to turn 2 into the Mercedes arena. Behind him is the
Freddie Kramer and
Freddie Kramer Porsche, yeah. And I'm still mystified as to why he's not going quicker.
Yeah, it's strange.
As I say, Kramer is an experienced driver, but whether it's that he's just not happy with the Cayman or there's something in that car, I don't know, but he's just not going as rapidly as you might have anticipated. Franjo Kovac there at the rear of the queue now, the car that he shares with Cora Schumacher. The Mercedes AMG GT4 down to the hairpin. There are the race leaders coming out of the chicane once again.
And the gap's increasing. Jean-Louis giving it loudly through the chicane.
Now further down the order there, you can see Marcinkiewicz still trying to fight back against Vlachkov in the Sin. Lead gap up to 1.9 seconds now. And we're just about 8 minutes off the window opening, but I think you can anticipate 1 or 2 to make the pit stops early and get the slower driver out. Others will go to the very end of the window. For Vlachkov, it doesn't really matter when he comes in, apart from any traffic he might encounter, because he will have to do the entire race on his own anyway. There is Lennart Marionech pressing on, and Marionech, having got himself up past Rob Sievers now, having taken 5th place, suddenly escapes, doesn't he? He's away and gone up the road. Look at the gap within the space of, what, 4 corners?
Yeah. Yeah, the Finn seems to have settled down in the 25 car now. Showing consistent laps.
Lots of curb used by Ilmari Korpivara then as he hustles on through the chicane. The leader has gone by, and the gap is up to 2.3 seconds now as he comes over the timing line. So Mads Siljehag goes through with 2.3 seconds being the advantage, and then Jean-Louis Jasper is a bit in no man's land behind. He's not catching, nor is he being caught. Siljehag out of turn 2. There in second spot, chasing on behind him is Oscar Tunjo.
But losing ground.
He is indeed. That gap is up now to 2.3 seconds. Now, who is the quicker out of Gasaya Rodest and Marilyn Niederhauser is the next question, because that's going to shape the second part of the race, isn't it?
Indeed. Indeed.
And out of Q2, Gasaya Rodest was a fair way faster than Marilyn Niederhauser.
Yeah.
So you would suspect that the pendulum might swing back in favour of the Audi come the end of the race. So as the race leader works now lap 12, 41 minutes and counting, down towards the Advan Bogen comes the race leader, Mads Siljehag. Now he climbs the hill up towards the chicane. And he's making good his escape because he was quicker in the first sector.
Four-wheel slide through the chicane.
Yeah, he's pressing on, isn't he?
Yeah, it's impressive.
And sideways into the Jaguar curve as well. Yeah. Siljehag perhaps realising here that he can't leave anything on the table because Marilyn Niederhauser needs as big a gap as possible. He is throwing everything at this stint. Through he comes, over the timing line once again. That lap was a 33.4. He's still pulling away from Tunjo. Replay here of the assorted slides up through the chicane, but the gap is widening all the time.
Very dramatic. But as you say, he's trying to build the gap to give Marlon as much space as possible.
Just missed that floppy marker as well, didn't he? The penalty marker. So Siljehag leading. He's done now 12 laps. He leads by 2.5 seconds. Bearing in mind he had to fight his way past the Audi, but he's done so with skill, and he's now getting away from Oscar Tunjo in second place. So through the hairpin goes the leading KTM. And Mads Siljehag can only do what he can do, and that is to go flat out for the bulk of the stint that's remaining, and I would anticipate that he will do a little bit longer. Now, remember I was talking about at the very start people being out of their white lines, out of their grid blocks. Well, Jean-Louis Jasper is under investigation for the start. So, although it's been a pretty decent stint, we're not necessarily going to get penalty-free. It's taken quite a long time for this to come up on the timing screen to confirm this potential error, but it's being looked at. So if the race director thinks something is not right, he'll refer that on to the stewards. The race director on mainland European events, unlike in the UK, doesn't do judicial, he just runs the race. Anything judicial is down to the stewards. There is the man in question, Jean-Louis Jasper then. So he's got this Damoclesian investigation. He's also got a leaden right foot at the Jaguar curve, hasn't he?
Yeah, that was a bit untidy.
So 39 minutes and counting remain. 4 minutes off the window opening as the Audi goes by then. Jean-Louis Jasper through. Made his debut in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo at the start of the season.
We have a replay of the leader coming through the chicane again. With his slides. Not so garish there, more controlled. Sliding is not speeding. More speed if you don't slide.
I'd love to drive one of these because they look very quirky cars, very different.
very nimble.
Yeah, 2-litre engines, don't weigh very much. And you see how much curb some use relative to others. Jean-Louis Jasper being quite conservative in comparison through the chicane, but then seems to run wider coming out of it.
Yeah.
Wrong line through. So we have the number 50 Maserati in the pit lane still, looking as though that is a retirement. Sadly, everybody else hustling on, but the pit lane is going to get very busy very shortly when the window opens.
That's a shame for that Maserati.
Had a couple of spins in the qualifying and practice sessions.
Could have upset something, yeah.
So the race leaders come up towards the Jaguar curve once again. Mads Sillyhog led last time by 3.1 seconds. And Sillyhog comes through now then, breaks the beam, and that lap is a 33.1, whereas last lap Tunjo did a 33.7, but he's brought the pace back down again as well. He's in the same bracket now, 33.1 second laps for both. Down towards turn one goes Mads Sillyhog. Oscar Tunjo still chasing, perhaps confident that he can just relax a little bit, knowing that Gosara Adest is quicker than is the second driver of the leading car, Marilyn Niederhauser. Now the other car to watch in all of this, potentially, could be 43, because although Rob Sievers has dropped back into 6th place, it's his co-driver, Nicholas Schürl, who is on pole position for race 2. Now, he's going to be asked to claw back 22 seconds, which might be too tall an order, but you never know what might happen.
He was quick earlier, wasn't he?
Tunjo up towards the Ravenol curve, through that S, the Ravenol and then Bilstein corners. But you can see the race leader from earlier on now somewhat distant in that second place. The gap just creeping up lap after lap after lap.
3.2 now.
Yeah, that's right. And it'll be more than that at the end of this lap, won't it? Because in the sectors it's been growing. And there, the marker goes for a burn. Yeah, that was Jean-Louis Jasper in his efforts to stay ahead and pull away from Ilmari Korpivara, who is being reeled in again by Lennart Marionech. So a bit too much power coming out of the Bilstein curve. Jean-Louis Jasper clips the marker. He's already under investigation for the start. He might now be under investigation for track limits.
Yep.
So over the timing line goes Jean-Louis Jasper. Ilmari Korpivara behind him, then Lennart Marionech. Rob Sievers still 6th, the gap now 24 seconds, so Nicholas Schürl being given more and more work to claw back. Fasikolo is 7th, 8th is Vlachkov, 9th is Marcinkiewicz, and 10th is Fast.
Korpivara is going through that Mercedes complex better than the first 3 laps of the race.
He's got on top of it now, hasn't he? But as he was looking ragged, of course, early on, so all the KTM seem to be struggling. They've all got better as the race has worn on. This is Jasper in replay. Look, misses the apex by a taxi ride. Off he goes.
Clunk, clunk.
Knocks it for 6. So we'll see whether anything comes from that. That's another car, I fear, that's going to fall back as the second stint gets underway. It's going to be fascinating to compare the order here for what we have at the end of the first stint. Because I do think we're going to have a bit of shuffling going on.
Yeah. And even if they then got penalties on top of that, so just Roddick's just not as fast as Jean-Louis.
So there is Jean-Louis Jasper out of the chicane. That's Ilmari Korpivara in the KTM behind, and then the similar car, different paint scheme, but the same KTM car of Lennart Marionech. So the race leaders then make their way over the timing line. Pit window is now open, so people can dive in. No one as yet has taken that opportunity, although is Rob Sievers going to be in early? Let's see. It would pay to get him in. I think he is. Yes, he is. Down the pit lane has come Rob Sievers. So that car was, where did we have him? 6th before the pit window opened. So Sillyhaug leads the way. 2nd is Tunjo, 3rd is Jasper, 4th is Korpivara, 5th is Marionech, 6th was Sievers, 7th Fasikolo, 8th Vlachkov, 9th Marcinkiewicz, and 10th Fast at the end of that first stint of the race as you get to the pit window. So Rob Sievers will get out and in will get Nicholas Schürl. Second driver helps with the belts. Just make sure that there's no grass or anything clogging up the air intake at the front that might make the thing overheat. But the Austrian driver, Nicolas Scherl, now in store behind the wheel. So the first significant pit stop, and look at the way now that Marianec is right on the back of Corpivara. So having been released from behind the Porsche, he has really got on with the job here.
Yeah, he's putting a lot of pressure on him. Corpivara.
Now Marianec will share with David Clarr in his first season of car racing. Same is true of Nicolas Scherl, so you've got two car racing rookies set to go toe-to-toe. As down at Allied Racing, the Porsche sits and waits for the 100 seconds to count down. You lose a lap in the process, but you gain that back when everybody else stops. The two KTMs are going to be side by side, and round the outside is Marianec. He's never going to stop in time, and they touch going into the first corner. Both go wide, and the last thing you want to do with a similar brand of car is make contact, but it's happened. The two KTMs rub, Lennart Marianec goes through, Imari Corpivara falls back a place. But
and he's got damage.
Oh, he's got broken suspension, hasn't he?
He's got broken suspension. The wheel's not turning.
It's not. Corpivara is effectively out of the race, isn't he? He's going to drag it back to the pit lane, but that's it.
Unlikely they'll be able to fix that in the window they've got.
Here's the replay. Talk us through it.
And they're coming into the Mercedes complex. There's virtually a hairpin, and taking the outside line, and bang, they crash together, and both go off, not into the kitty litter, but then number 25 car has got damaged front near side suspension, and likely that his race is over.
Trouble is, of course, that Corpivara's got previous for going too deep into that corner, so yeah. I think he was going wide anyway, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate for him on that one lap that there was traffic on the outside line.
Yeah, Marianec should have been aware of that, and it was a kind of dodgy line to take. Look.
Still going quite quickly for an effectively three-wheel car.
A three-wheel car.
So Marianec is trying to drag it back. Corpivara is trying to drag it back. Through goes Fasicolo. Right, the leaders have gone through, and at the end of this next lap, we'll get a proper idea of where number 43 is now with Nicolas Scherl at the wheel. Vlachkov is in, Fast is in, Kramer is in the sister car, and then in, and I think will stay in, is Corpivara.
Corpivara, yeah. And that's a shame, because Rossatus is a fast driver. Could have gained some time there.
Pretty fast on his way back into the race, and the Mercedes also coming into the race behind him is number 41.
Rossatus is getting into the car, so do they reckon they can fix that in the time?
They're going to have a go, aren't they?
They're having a go.
New tyre on. I would have thought it was more than just a puncture, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, they're having a look.
It's worth putting him anyway, because if they can get him out, it's more mileage.
Yes. No.
I think they've now realised what's broken.
Said they can't fix it.
So they'll put a wheel on just to get the car into the garage.
Get the car into the garage,
yeah. So Ilmari Corpivara, disappointing after all of that, out of the race. Now they can't get a wheel on because of the damaged bodywork and everything else.
So they're bringing the trolleys out to get it in. The wheel's not going to help.
Drop it down, turn it round, push it back into the garage. See the damage on the left-hand side, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's the mechanical damage that we can't see that's the problem.
And I think a penalty is heading for Jean-Louis Jasper, because the team manager of number 4 is now being summoned to the race director. So for that slightly dodgy start, remember, you meant to stay in your white lines until you go over the timing line of the race start. You can't weave left and right and be all out of position, which is what we were seeing. Yeah. Jean-Louis Jasper might have a case to answer, should have a case to answer. We've done now 19 laps, and there's the leading car, the KTM of Mads Siljehoug up front.
Yeah. And Jean-Louis might have some penalties for exceeding track limits.
Yeah, we've not had a message about it being investigated for that yet, have we? But it might come later, you never know. We're a bit busy sorting out your start first. There's 41 Porsche, which is now Joachim Bulting at the wheel of it, having taken over from Freddie Kramer, and he's having a go to try and get past Freddie fast. So this is a genuine fight for position, these two are having, 11th and 12th at the moment. It's the battle not to be last, in fact.
Yeah. The two Freddies.
Freddie fast in the Mercedes, Joachim Bulting in the Porsche. Down to the hairpin they come. So we await news as to Jean-Louis Jasper's fate, and equally Helmut Rödig is going to be in that car fairly shortly. So Siljehoog leads the way now by 3.9 seconds from Tunjo in second spot. Pit stops due. And we've got now number 77 Maserati just going back into the race, which has got Remy Dall'Antonio at the wheel of it. Has had a win already this season. So that car, I think I'm right in saying, would have stayed ahead of the, yes it has, 43 Porsche. So Nicolas Schürrle loses track position to the Maserati out of all of that. Of course, the other factor in all of this, you see occasional place changes on the pit stops. It can be because a team has messed up, but it can also be because a team has been too quick, messed up on the timing and released the car too soon, in which case penalties come that way. So we'll keep an eye to whether anyone is investigated at the end of this pit window as well. All the data is there from the timekeepers to race control.
Scholl's not really challenging at this point in the race, is he?
No, he's still playing catch-up, isn't he? His next target is going to be the sin of Lachkov. Down the pit lane is the leader. In comes Mads Siljehoog then to hand over now to Marilyn Niederhauser. So the team is ready with the stop board. There in the background is the...
number 50 Maserati.
Yeah. No, number 7 Maserati.
Number 7 Maserati.
Oh. Leader in. So Marilyn Niederhauser is good to go. A winner in this, rather blotted a copybook at Brands Hatch in that clash in the European Championship with Ricardo van der Ende. Out tumbles Mads Siljehoog and does the job properly, turns round, starts to help Marilyn with the belts. Of course, in a sense, you've got more room to work here, haven't you? Because with the front folding up like that, I know there's the cage, but in the background, Marionetch is in to give way to David Klaar. There he is. Lennart Marionetch, after his rather physical stint, might have a case to explain against Ilmari Korpivara. Marilyn Niederhauser is all strapped in and good to go.
Just got to wait for the time.
That's right.
David Klaar getting in. He did drive some tidy laps at the Hungaroring. I don't get the thumbs up for this. Keep waiting. Oh, no, she's going. So Marianne out.
And Marilyn Niederhauser there ahead of Gassai Rodest. This effectively is the lead battle now with the two new drivers behind the wheel of the two cars. KTM ahead of Audi. There, David Klaar will be released in a moment. Got to time this right so that you release the car and then he's got this drive time, so he breaks the beam not before 100 seconds. But if you keep him there too long, you're just wasting time. So out goes Klaar behind Helmut Rödig in this possibly to be penalised Audi. We've got 25 minutes of the race to go. And down through the hairpin will come now Marilyn Niederhauser. Gassai Rodest in the Audi behind was quicker in Q2 than was Marilyn Niederhauser. So it's going to be interesting now to see how they get on. Now, while they are circulating, Nicolas Schürrle is lapping in the 134s. Remy Dall'Antonio's Maserati in the 35s. So Schürrle is doing his best to make some progress. The other one that could be a dark horse in this is Vlachkov as well.
Yeah.
The Sin is looking pretty quick. So in traffic, Gassai Rodest accelerates up now towards the Ad Van Bergen. The pit window is closed, so everybody now needs to have made their pit stops. And at the end of this next lap, when we've had the pit window cycle through, we'll have a chance to update the order. But there is Marilyn Niederhauser then, who leads the way. It was 3.6 seconds when they came into the pit lane. Deep into the Jaguar corner. Finds an apex eventually. Back onto the pit straight. And her first lap in the car completed, an outlap done. Of course, it's hard work for the second drivers because you're expected to be on the money straight away, so you've got to try and learn about the track, learn about what state the car is in, and push absolutely flat out. This is where the experienced guns for hire in endurance racing come into their own. So the gap between them is 5.5 seconds. That's what now needs to be made up between Niederhauser and Rodest. Gosaya Rodest doing the chasing. And now we'll start to watch these sector times to see whether she's going to get closer as the stint wears on. In third place now is Helmut Rödig. In fourth place, it is David Clark. So it's very KTM-ish up at the pointy end at the moment.
Yeah.
Two of those against two of the Audis. Fifth and sixth, it is the Maserati of Dal Antonio. In seventh place is Vlachkov. And in eighth is Nicholas Schürrle, who actually lost a bit of time on that lap.
Yeah.
Now then, the team manager of number 25 to race control, which is Ilmari Korpivara. So I think Korpivara is going to be talked to about his lines at turn one, particularly that it resulted in contact with Marionette. You could argue the bite a bit because, of course, he went too deep into the corner and came out with damage and out of the race, but the officials want a word.
Well, it was a consistent mistake he was making through the laps, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. There's 77, which is now fifth. Romy Dal Antonio. He's taken over from Giuseppe Fascicolo in this car that had a win at the Red Bull Ring. They've been to the Czech Republic, they've been to Austria, and now to Germany in this third event within the championship, this fifth race.
Come up to brake for the chicane. Shoal all over the back of the 47 Mercedes there.
That's Bolting in the sister car. That's the battle for 9th and 10th places. So Joachim Bolting into that car, and he's only 4/10ths back, but he hasn't yet found a way past the Mercedes. Freddie Fast doing a good job there, sitting in the middle of the road and defending nicely as the cars come up now through the Ad Van Bogen. 21.5 minutes still to run. Nicholas Schürrle, though, has got a bit stuck because he's now 38 seconds adrift of the leader. Sorry, he's 41 seconds adrift of the leader, and his lap times aren't looking as good as they were earlier on. So even though he's on pole position for the second race, he's now struggling a little bit as the sister car here in penultimate place comes through, and that is Vlachkov, well off.
Buried in the kitty litter at turn one.
But he's back on track, losing out there to Marcinkiewicz. So that's going to put Vlachkov down into 8th place now. So Nicholas Schürrle gains a spot. But a mistake made at the end of the pit straight puts the Sin R1 off the road. Beware, your sins will find you out. So Ivan Vlachkov rejoins, but 2 places down the order.
Dropping gravel as he goes.
Yeah, it's never a good way to win friends, that is it?
No.
Mercedes versus Porsche behind him. There's the race leader then, Marilyn Niederhauser. Her lap's not as quick as Siljehaug, a 37, and Gosaya Rodest, a 35.4. The gap is coming down. It was 5.5 seconds. It's down to 4.9. So with 20 minutes to go, it's game on here. Gosaya Rodest in second place in the Audi has a realistic chance of catching and winning for the lead. So it is Niederhauser, Rodest, and then in third place now, Helmut Rödig, who actually is holding his own here. Helmut Rödig is doing laps in the 35s, so he's on the same sort of pace as Gosaya Rodest, and it means that Marilyn Niederhauser might end up behind an Audi 1-2 at this rate.
Wow.
Helmut Rödig did a 32.7 in qualifying. They're some way off at qualifying pace, of course, in the second stint of a GT race, but again, he's got reasonable pace, Helmut Rödig. But we just need to know what about this investigation that's been going on. So Gosaya Rodest quicker by 3/10 in the first sector alone. It's tumbling down this gap now, isn't it? Everybody clear on the pit stops. No pit stop infringements. All the stops done to the correct time.
Tidy line there by Gosaya through the chicane, up into the Jaguar curve.
And thence to the timing line, yeah.
Yeah, and she's now in sight of Marilyn.
So the gap as they come across the line is 4.4 seconds, another half a second taken out. Marilyn Niederhauser, as she sees the Audi in the mirrors, might just be able to up her pace a little, but the most nervous man of all perhaps now is Mads Siljehoog, watching all of this from the pit lane. It's completely out of his hands, and he can see all that hard work crumbling away. Of course, it did take him a few laps to get past the Oscar Tunjo-driven Audi. Once he got through, he tried to hustle away as best he could, but now the gap's coming down again. Back into the race has just gone number 25 KTM. So Benjamin Mazetis at the wheel of it. They've lost now 7 laps effectively while the car's been worked on, but they get it out because they need this as a test session. There is a brief warm-up session tomorrow morning, but what this enables the team to do is see whether or not the work is done and whether the car is fixed. So Benjamin Mazetis goes back out. The team manager also up before the beak as the battle for 9th and 10th comes through, fast ahead of Bulting.
That's incredible that they fixed that car in that time.
It's good, isn't it? Good going. Freddie Faust a little bit deep into turn 1. Whoops. But the Mercedes will stay ahead then, or will it? Yes, it will, because Bulting backs out of that.
Yeah. Up for a challenge.
Mads Siljehoog's car, Marilyn Niederhauser at the wheel, goes through. 4.2 seconds is the gap. Another couple of tenths lost, in fact, on that lap by Marilyn Niederhauser. So the gap down once more. Gasira Dest still quicker. And we've got 17 minutes of the race to go. Mads Siljehoog having done the fastest lap of the race earlier on, a 32.3. The car at a slightly reduced pace now, but the gap coming down and down between the leaders. Here, no matter what Joachim Bulting tries, it seems as though the Mercedes has an answer.
Yeah, Freddie just keeps blocking him and then has more pace down the straights. And Bulting, the outside line's not going to work there.
Joachim Bulting on the tail of him as he comes up towards the timing line. Through they will go now.
And he's pulled out to go for the inside line. Under braking. Not close enough. Oh,
but he's going to have a go coming out of turn 1 because the Mercedes goes wide. Joachim Bulting on the outside line for turn 2. He's going to chance his arm here. If he can stand his ground all the way around the outside, it'll be the inside line for turn 4. But the Mercedes, Freddie Faust tries to get back up on the inside. Is he going to be able to do it? Yes, he is. Faust goes back through. Bulting has another look at turn 4, but the door closes ahead of him, so Freddie Faust hangs onto the place. Whoa. Great racing between the two of them, wasn't it?
Great racing, great racing. You could see Bulting hesitating out there on that outside line.
Up the curb goes the Porsche. Yeah. And again, the power of the Mercedes kicks in. It's through the corners, through the twiddly bits, where the Cayman has the advantage.
Yeah.
The GT4 Club Sport with the original flat 6 Porsche engine, unlike the 2.5 turbo that the 718 has, the current generation of Cayman. So there's the leading car, and the gap is 3.9 seconds. It was another 4 tenths pulled back last time. So the gap is coming down, but not massively so. But each lap there is a reduction.
Yeah. We've got 15 minutes left. So it's theoretically possible for Gazaya to catch her and then possibly get past.
Behind all of this, in third place still, is Helmut Rödig. In fourth place, it is David Clark. Fifth place now, Romy Dall'Antonio. Sixth is Nicholas Schurl, lapping in the 34, so he's still quicker than most of those ahead of him. In fact, Schurl last lap through was the quickest man on the circuit.
Whoa.
So it's a shame he lost the ground early on. Now, how's Freddie Faust getting on? He's still under attack, isn't he?
He's still under attack. Schurl had a look there, but just wasn't in the right position. The torque of that Mercedes, though, is just incredible. No, he's not close. This is where he should have an advantage. through that turn, hairpin. Mercedes just pulling away on the straight there, heading up to the chicane. Round the Jaguar curves onto the pit straight. Right up the back of the Mercedes again. You'd think with the more streamlined Porsche it would have more pull down the straight, but obviously the grunt of the Mercedes just keeps it in front.
Really frustrating for Joachim Bilting, isn't it? Everything he tries, the Mercedes has an answer. And again, Fast goes a bit deep into turn one, but he's got the power to drag himself out the other side of that. As you look at the race leader, Marilyn Niederhauser, 3.7 seconds to the good. She lost 4 tenths in sector 1, another 2 tenths in sector 2. So Gosira Dest chipping away out of the last corner. Uses as much curb as she's legitimately allowed to over the timing line. 12.5 minutes, as you can see on the clock, still to go, and the gap is down to 3.2 seconds now. Now, is she going to get there in time? Initially, I thought it was going to be a shoe-in, but the gap, 3.2 seconds now. Actually lost a bit of ground in the last sector, so that's where the KTM is good through the chicane.
Yeah.
So Gosira Dest, ever improving as a driver. Marilyn Niederhauser hanging on. But are we going to have a 5th different winner in the 5 races thus far? Let's see. There is the leading KTM. Ran by Hans Reiter's team for many, many years. Hans, of course, was the driving force behind Lamborghinis, but eventually the Grasser Racing team rather took over as the leading Lamborghini squad. Others like Barwell in the UK have followed suit. So it's with the KTMs and this young driver program that Hans Reiter has been busy occupying himself. There you've got Nicholas Schürrle running in 6th place. He's 37 seconds back, so he needs a safety car, which ain't going to come, to really bring him back into the game. But his last lap was a 34, so
respectable.
Very good indeed. Only Rödig, in fact, last time was any quicker.
Oh.
77 is the Romy Dall'Antonio Maserati, putting a lap on Cora Schumacher, the ex-wife of Ralf Schumacher, television presenter and racer, and going a lap down. So that car is in 11th place now, the last effectively of those that hasn't had a problem. That's at the back on pace, rather than, unlike the number 25 KTM, at the back with a drama. So the leader through that last lap, a 34.9, and in fact slightly quicker than Gosira Dest on the last lap. Marilyn Niederhauser, just to confuse the issue, speeds up, pulls away. Through goes Helmut Rödig's 3rd place Audi. As you look here at Cora Schumacher, still hustling on, but way, way deep into the last corner. She's done quite a lot of racing, in fairness, as Cora, and comes up towards the timing line. As there you've got the Maserati. Romy Dall'Antonio goes by, and that lap of 35.8, so he's dropping away from David Clarr in the KTM just up the road.
Yep. And the sim of Vlachkov as he settled down after his gravel pit entry. Some smoke from the Maserati there.
Jean-Louis Jasper's start, incidentally, still under investigation, so it's taken a long time to look at it. And there a spin, that was David Clarr, and he's losing a place because Romy Dall'Antonio goes ahead of him. David Clarr gets back onto the road, so he's lost 4th, and Nicholas Schürrle is going to be up with him, I would have thought, any moment. The Porsche closing up now as Clarr tries to rejoin. Allah's not Clarr, I'm afraid, but David Clarr has got going, but he's lost 1 spot. Where is Nicholas Schürrle? There he is behind him, getting closer all the while, so there's a potential place to be gained here. Leading gaps down again, 3.1 seconds now.
Whoa. There's Rödig in the number 4 car. Eight seconds shy of the leaders. Maserati coming through.
And a flash of the lights from Nicolas Schurl. That's in hope more than any anticipation, I think, because David
he's
Clark's not going to get out of his way.
There. No.
But if you can distract him into the braking zone,
yeah.
he might launch up the inside, which he does. Brake, Nicholas, brake, turn. And he's going to run out wide, and he loses the place. So, again, you could sort of see it coming, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Far too deep into the corner, runs wide, and one up and one back for Nicolas Schurl. But he's going to have another go at David Clark here and try and put the pressure on.
Yeah.
Both of them in their first season of car racing, but I think you're going to hear a lot more of these two.
Yeah.
Schurl to the inside.
Oh, is he going to take it?
Thinks about it, doesn't he?
He thinks about it, no.
Can't do it. He's just had a lesson of what happens when you brake too late.
Yeah.
Comes out of the corner now, back onto the gas. 8 minutes to go. The leading gap is 3 seconds. It's looking increasingly like Marilyn Niederhauser is going to hang on to this.
Yeah. There's only just under 8 minutes to go. So.
Up the curve goes David Clark, looking a bit ragged now.
A bit ragged.
Nicolas Schurl closes up. Another flash of the
lights. So in theory, the Porsche should be quicker down here because it's more streamlined. But it's not showing that speed. Although, level pegging, and backs out for the chicane. Clark keeps the lead. And Scholl into the pit straight. Hopefully Scholl won't make the same mistake this time. He's going for the outside line this time. To try and come in the inside. Oh, he's got it. He's got it. Can he keep it? Yes, he's through and ahead of Clark, the 22 car, KTM. So Porsche moves up the running. But Clark's not giving up. And we have a replay. And coming. Why are we having a replay of this?
This is where it all started, wasn't it? Coming out of the Coca-Cola curve. So a good exit, put him up on his toes, ready to make that move down towards turn one. So there, Nicolas Schurl using as much road as he can, keeping up the momentum, getting into the draft, and then as they come over the timing line, able to slingshot up the side of the KTM. So he sits in the toe, and then at the last moment goes to the outside line. David Clark, having covered the inside, has no option but to see the Porsche go round the outside, brake late. But then, as they get to the corner, Nicolas Schurl slows it down enough to get the undercut, selling Clark a dummy effectively, and pounces up the inside. And he's already accelerating as Clark is just finishing turning the corner, so the Porsche goes through.
Yeah. Remember, it's the Jaguar curve. Coca-Cola was the previous one. So.
Ah, that's right. Yes. Old habits die hard. So Schurl, having got through, comes out of the Jaguar corner ahead and by a margin now of 1.8 seconds. Up front, here's the leading battle, and it's down to 2.4 seconds. It's getting tight with 5 minutes to go. The gap's down again by 6/10 in the first sector. And of course, the closer Ghassia Rodest gets, the more motivated she becomes. So she's hustling on. Up the curve goes the Audi. The KTM's still in charge, but in 5 minutes, what are they going to get? 3 more laps, maybe 4, that's all.
Yeah. Marlin comes through tightly, but Ghassia just behind.
Down towards the Jaguar curve, through this long right onto the pit straight. And the gap is 1.6 seconds with 4 minutes and 40 seconds to go. So Ghassia Rodest doing a great job here, but of course catching is one thing, then she's got to try and find a way past. So it's going to be an interesting end to the race because of course we started with the KTM looking for a way past the Audi, and now it could well turn out to be the other way around. Oscar Tunjo watching from the pit lane, Mads Siljehoog watching from the pit lane and seeing Ghassia Rodest, much improved a racer, pressing on. She was quicker in Q2 than was Marilyn Niederhauser, so in terms of pure pace, she should be able to do it. They're coming up to the end of the first sector shortly, which will give us an idea as to where the gap stands. Through they come. KTM just ahead at the moment. Audi second. In the background, third is Helmut Rödig, who's gone far better than I was anticipating, in fairness.
Yes, yes.
He's still there, only 4 seconds adrift. There are the 2 race leaders, and in the first sector, another 10th is pulled back, so that means we're down to a 2.5 seconds.
Gazaya can smell a win.
Absolutely right. Up now through the Ravenol, and then the Bilstein curves. It's going to be less than a second, surely, before much longer.
Yeah.
Third is Rödig, fourth is Dall'Antonia, fifth is Schurl, sixth is Clark, seventh is Marcinkiewicz, eighth after he's off is Vlachkov, ninth is Fast, and 10th is Bilting. That's the order as the 2 race leaders dive up towards the chicane. In the second sector, another 2/10 pull back, and there is Joachim Bilting trying to prise the door open, but Freddie Fast stands his ground. That's Vlachkov putting a lap on Cora Schumacher. And Freddie Fast may not be living up to his name, but he does drive a defensive car.
Yes.
Freddie Defend, I think, is what he should be.
Yeah.
But there he is.
He's making it very wide.
He's indeed. Joachim Bilting still can't
It's
find a way
always...
by.
Oh, I thought he was going to have another challenge there.
Leaders go through, and the gap is 1.3 seconds. Again, Niederhauser just a bit better in that last sector. In the battle to be 9th, Bilting trying the outside into the hairpin, but he's not going to be able to get the undercut because he went out too wide. There are the leaders. There's going to be time for at least 1 more lap at the end of this. Can they squeeze 2 out of it? Let's see. Out of turn 3 they come, now up towards the run towards the hairpin. And Marilyn Niederhauser starting this 36th lap to 1.3 seconds clear.
She has to keep a cool head on her and not let the pressure build up from Gazaya. Keep it tidy.
Climb out of the hairpin, now in towards the S of the Ravenol and Bilstein curves, past René Reinert's fleet of trucks. Plenty of fans watching this race as well before they get back into truck mode for the rest of the afternoon. We've got 2 more races and the go and stop still to come. And can they squeeze 2 more laps out of it, or is it only going to be 1? Let's see. A flying lap is 1 minute 35. They might just be able to do it as they come up towards the chicane. The gap was down by hundreds in the middle sector, but half a second in the first sector. Gazaya Rodest hustles on. Look how much closer she is now. 5.5 seconds was the starting point. It's going to be touch and go this. A flying lap is 1 minute 35. And as they come up towards the line, it's going to be very, very marginal, this. By about 1 second, they might be able to squeeze another lap out of it, but 0.7 of a second is all that it is between Gazaya Rodest and the race-leading Marilyn Niederhauser. Gazaya is almost there, but the trouble is she's not going to then have much time in which to make the move. It's got to be catch and get on with it straight away. There'll be discussions now between the pit wall and the timekeepers. Can this be the last lap? Did the beam break at 1 minute and 35 or 1 minute and 36? Gazaya Rodest wants another lap here. And of course, if Niederhauser has to defend, it's going to slow the pace of this last lap anyway. Down to the hairpin they come. Is Gazaya Rodest close enough now to make a move?
Doesn't look like she's close enough, but when we got on the straight, the extra grunt of the Audi might give her the advantage. But she's not closing up enough on Marilyn.
And trouble is, they're heading towards that last sector where the KTM is stronger, so the gap has widened a little, has it not? 7/10 it was.
Yeah.
33 seconds on the clock. Up the curb goes Gazaya Rodest, really pushing hard. And look in the background there, Helmut Rödig is getting closer and closer as well.
Yeah.
Marilyn Niederhauser up towards the timing line. Now, from our vantage point, we can't see whether a checkered flag is being made ready.
No.
There's no last lap graphic on the screen.
No.
So as they come into the chicane, Gazaya Rodest hoping against hope that there's 1 more lap out of this. Marilyn Niederhauser could just slacken the pace off a little bit, because even if the flag isn't there and we get to the end of the hour, the result will be taken. So out of the Jaguar curve they come, up towards the timing line. Is there a flag? Through they go. And the answer is no. They get 1 more lap out of it as they go through them.
Which gives Gazaya the opportunity, hopefully.
Very, very tight by hundreds, that, as Gazaya Rodest looks to the inside line. Marilyn Niederhauser defends.
Challenge. Bit wide, but pulls away. Oh, this is nail-biting stuff. But Rödig is driving the lap of the race of this weekend. And here they come through. They're saying this is now the final lap, so definitely the checkered flag will be here. Through the hairpin, down through Ravenol. Bilstein. Marlin's keeping her head, keeping her cool. Gazaya gaining a little bit of ground here through the Advan. And we're into the chicane, tidally through. Roddick is driving his socks off in the background. And onto the pit straight off the Jaguar curve. Coming up to the line, the flag is waving and Marlin takes it forward very closely by Gazaya. Excellent race. And Roddick comes through in third. Well done, Marlin. And there'll be some sighs of relief in the pit wall there from Siliag and Tuner. In the background there we can see the sim of Lashkov coming through, and the Maserati comes through. Fourth place, Romy Dal Antonio, 77, good finish for him. Then fifth place we have Nicholas Scholl. Some relieved drivers there in the pits. And there's Fast Freddy still held on to his 9th position ahead of Bolton, so Bolton couldn't make any of his challenges splits. And last across the line there is Cora. Excellent race. But we've still got to wait for the outcome of some of the investigations, the white lines, exceeding track limits, and see if that changes any of the results. And all the cars now feed off into the paddock, the pit lane. Marilyn will be ecstatic. And a bit of a delay where we get them lined up. So that was Marlin's co-driver walking down the pit lane there, Mads Stiliog, who set the whole thing up in the first half of the race with an excellent drive. And there we have the results. Marlin Niederhaus, Matt Stiliog 1, Gossi Aridis, Oscar Tuno in position 2, Helmut Roddick and Louis Jasper position 3, albeit probably provisionally. Romy Dal Antonio and Fasicola number 4, Nicholas Scholl, Rob Sievers in position 5, David Klar and Marionek in 6, Kreski and Markievich in 7, and Vlatchov driving solo in the Sin, recovered from his spin to get an 8th. Fast Freddy was in number 9, Cora Schumacher number 11, and then the repaired car of Masata's, the KTM, it comes in last place. Incredible that they managed to fix that and get it out and get him to finish the race, but good miles here. Here we're seeing some of the highlights. Matthias, the number 25 car going wide again, that was probably driven by Corpora. And in the back we have the Sim and the Maserati, and then we have one of the KTMs. And there we have the number 4 car luridly sliding round from the Jaguar cars into the pit straight. That was, and there we have the incident. And the wheel doesn't fit because there's something mechanical broken, but they did manage to fix it and get it out. And there's the challenge from the Mercedes to the Porsche through the chicane, down the straight. I think that's a highlight of Marion going out. And the Maserati. Oh, and there's the Sim in the kitty litter at turn 1. Obviously, too late braking, too wide a line in the kitty litter, and it punishes you. Bolting, trying to get by Fast Freddy, but unable to make it stick, the extra torque of the car. Antonio in the Maserati. Oh, and there was the spin of Class, which lost him the place there at the hairpin.
So there, Marilyn Niederhauser's car being pushed back up towards Parc Fermé. The technical team will require it, ready for the post-race technical checks. Then we will go to the podium. And there'll be the 2 podium ceremonies, one for Pro-Am, one for Am. Ivan Blachkov's seen in the background, but Marilyn Niederhauser, our first double winner of the season, different co-drivers that she's had, so it's a new winning combination, but Marilyn Niederhauser racing with Mads Siljehaug this weekend takes victory for the Reiter team. Mads very, very happy about that. He's been quite impressive this year in GT3 as well, even though it's older machinery. He's done some good lap times. And Mads Siljehaug then taking a GT4 race win. Marilyn Niederhauser, despite the fact the gap was dwindling lap by lap by lap, managed to hang on in there.
Kept her cool, didn't let the pressure get to her, drove a tidy line, straight line, economic. Excellent. Look at that smile.
Says it all, doesn't it?
It does.
So Marilyn Niederhauser heads to the podium. Puts the pressure on Steffi Halm now. We can have a female winner in cars. Why can't we in trucks? So Steffi Halm will try and
no pressure there, Steffi.
In the second race of the afternoon for the trucks for the European Championship. Absolutely full paddock, very, very full campsites around the circuit as well. And Nina Pfiffner from SRO, the championship coordinator, rustles up all the drivers and takes them to the fan village where the podium will be. So Marilyn Niederhauser congratulated. And Mads Siljehaug, after a very, very good first stint, of course, because he set that up for Marilyn in a sense. He was the one that had to do the overtaking and get the advantage. And managed to hang on to that race lead and build the gap just enough for Marilyn Niederhauser to preserve the gap at the flag, being 0.448 of a second. That was all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very close at the end there, but still a gap. But Siljehaug really knows how to motor with those KTMs.
So thumbs up for the cameras. And a big hug.
Big hug. I think that's a family member. I remember seeing her at Nurburgring. Uh-oh. Too shy.
So the drivers very shortly then to go to the podium. We'll need the AMs as well as the Pro-Ams. They're being rounded up as well. So tomorrow's race will be from a different grid. It's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out tomorrow. So there's the podium being made ready. The fans are there, and the winning drivers will be brought forward very shortly indeed, ready for the podium for the end of this first of the 2 GT4 Central European Cup races. So for the Pro-Am podium, third will go the way of Helmut Rödig and Jean-Louis Jasper, second to Gassara Dest and Oscar Tunjo, and to the race winners, the top step for Marilyn Niederhauser and co-driver Mads Siljehaug. So the drivers being brought forward. Is Oscar Tunjo, who we need for second place. That's about all we've got so far.
He's gone on at number 1.
Yeah. Ivan Blachkov joins him on the podium.
And they get their Certina watches
as the pole position winners of Pro and of Pro-Am. So that's the first podium done. Certina part of the Swatch group, so as you have one of the brands, Blancpain, involved in GT3. Certina, which has been the timing partner for the ADAC GT Masters for a number of seasons, now the watch brand promoted through GT4 racing. So for third place on the podium come Helmut Rödig and Jean-Louis Jasper. Whether it's a third place they will keep remains to be found out, because they're still looking at the start of Jean-Louis Jasper. For second place, Gassara Dest and Oscar Tunjo back to the podium in the Phoenix Run Audi, the local team. And then for the top step, it's going to be the Reiter Youngstars squad in the KTM of Marilyn Niederhauser and Mads Siljehaug. Onto the podium they come. Marilyn Niederhauser as the race winner. Mads Siljehaug taking, I think, his first overall win, certainly in GT4 cars, and onto the top step of the podium.
So 2 women on the podium.
So for the race-winning team, the national anthem for the Reiter Engineering squad is played, and then the presentations to be made. Niederhauser and Siljehaug, of course, also the Pro-Am victors. And then the Am Cup won in 4th place, a second win of the year for Dall'Antonio and Fasincolo in the Maserati. So trophy from Pirelli for the third place drivers of Helmut Rödig and Jean-Louis Jasper. He's rocking up the racing miles this year with Lamborghinis, with European GT4 and with the Central European GT4 Cup as well. Then for second place, Gassara Dest and Oscar Tunjo, they receive their trophies. And then for the top step, the race-winning trophies are handed over to Marilyn Niederhauser and to Mads Siljehaug. A very happy Hans Reiter stands between them. So Phoenix on home soil defeated, which would be slightly hard to swallow, I would have thought, but they'll fight back tomorrow. They'll be the second instalment. Hans Reiter runs away, and Jean-Louis Jasper goes on Stokes, anybody he can find. And Mads Siljehaug is very ungentlemanly now that they've won a race. But a great effort that by Mads to get the car into the lead early on. Hugs all round. And Helmut Rödig rising to the occasion there, closing up towards the end. His last lap was a good bit quicker than anybody else around him.
Yeah, that was much better driving. Pause with the champagne in the cup.
Certainly, Oscar Tunjo is done. And the podium is now to be dressed for the AM Cup. So we need the ETRC podium girls again. And in the meantime, we've got the trucks venturing out in the background for the second of the European races of the afternoon. The live stream will have a break very shortly. We'll be off air at 3:05, but at 5:30 back for the second ETRC race, the second Mittel Rhine Cup race, and then the go and stop to round out the afternoon. So up onto the podium then. For third place comes Ivan Vrachkov. For second place, another soloist here, which was Marcin Marcicevic. And then the top step will go to the double driver entry for the Maserati of Romeo Dall'Antonio and Giuseppe Fascicolo. So for Giuseppe Fascicolo and Romeo Dall'Antonio, it's a second victory of the season. And the representative of Scuderia Veloba Corsa there to get the team's award as well. So tomorrow's race, separate grid, separate qualifying session, and we look forward to seeing whether it's going to be a KTM 1-2. But for now, the AM Cup celebrations underway.
I wonder if Kresge's feeling any better now.
So then for Scuderia Veloba Corsa, the national anthem of the winning team played, and now from the championship partners, the presentations to be made at the end of race one for the GT4 Central European Cup. From Pirelli, the trophy to Ivan Vrachkov in the sin, but for that spin, could have been a higher step of the podium, couldn't it?
Yep.
And for second place, the trophy goes to the Maserati driver Maciej Marcincevic and Romeo Dall'Antonio, and Giuseppe Fascicolo receive the winner's trophy at the end of this first GT4 Central European Cup race of the weekend. Mads Siljehaug, of course, having been part of the overall winning crew, also did the fastest lap of the race, and is going to take some stopping when we get to race 2 tomorrow. So now the drivers all huddled together on the top step, ready for the photographs. And then they will let loose with the champagne, I suspect. You don't need the overalls again until tomorrow, so
yeah, they'll dry
cleaned.
Yeah.
So the drivers will make their way clear of the podium, and we'll be back at 3:30, ready for the build-up to the second ETRC race of the afternoon.
Höhepunkt jagt den anderen hier bei diesem Wochenende beim Truck Grand Prix. Und auf dem Programm steht als nächstes der zweite Lauf der Truck-Europameisterschaft an diesem Wochenende. Und danach werden wir auch dazu wieder hier die Siegerehrung haben. Dann haben wir noch Mittelrhein Cup und britische Truckmeisterschaft heute Nachmittag. Und dann haben wir noch zum Abschluss den Knorrbremse Go-and-Stop-Wettbewerb. Also wer hier nicht rumkommt und weiß, was er tun soll, dem kann ich auch nicht mehr helfen bei diesem tollen Wetter. Habt weiterhin viel Spaß beim 33. Internationalen ADAC Truck Grand Prix.
Ich glaube, ich bin seit vielen Jahren auf jeden Fall unterwegs. Ja, eigentlich angefangen hat es alles in den 90er Jahren, als wir hier zum ersten Mal auch so viele Abteilungen haben konnten.
Ja, aber das ist ein anderes Stichwort. Und Vorbild, und wenn das auch ganz Sicherheit mit unserem Aktor, mit dem AWA.
Wir haben auch was ganz Spezielles vorbereitet. Wir haben einen Spieler. Schauen wir uns jetzt mal an.